Temple Shariamith, and just wanted to start with a few quick announcements. You may have seen the email that went out for Monday, for Juneteenth. The temple will be closed in observance of the newly announced national holiday. We also have Pride Shabbat coming up next Friday evening, as well as our softball game, which I will mention earlier, which was rescheduled for the 26th, which is the following Sunday after Father's Day. I'd like to invite my wife, Jennifer, up to start the evening off with a candlelighting service.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen. Rich Coben, if you would please come to the bima for the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom tehillah lemikra kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in turn, come into the sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer.
On page 142, we can find the words of Shalom Aleichem, welcoming the Sabbath angels. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. 4. Yitgadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei lechol beit Yisrael bagala u'v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam u'la'alamei alamaya Yitbarach ve'yishtabach Ve'yitba'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh Ve'yithadar ve'yit'aleh Ve'yit'halal Shemei Dekudsha Richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen.
We continue with the call to worship on page 146. Please rise. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We continue on page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chachma poteach she'orim, uvitbuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem borakia pirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom u'mevi layla, umavdil ben yom u'ben layla, Adonai tziva'ot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
Page 150. Everlasting love, you offered your people, Israel, by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malachuto, Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, page 154 for the V'ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, Bechol levavcha, uvechol nafshecha, uvechol meodecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavcha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam v'navdecha, v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha, v'techa, uvlekta, ukshobecha, uvkumecha, Ukshartam leot al yadecha vahayu letotafot beinecha Uktabtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisherecha leman tizkru ba'asitem et lo. Vayetem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Leyot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, and there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef elech, nora tehilot osef elech. Malchutecha ra'u banecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze Elianu ve'ameru. Adonai Meloch, Adonai Meloch, leolam va'ed. V'ne'emar kifad Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukkot shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Jerusalem.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please rise for tefillah. We'll be reading pages 164 to 170, the even pages only. Adonai tzifatai tiftachu fi yadi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imavot, U'Mevi Geulah Livnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer, Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Bezrat Sarah, atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Morid atah, Mechalkel chaim v'chesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar. Mi chamocha bal gevurot, Umidom elach, Melech memit umchayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah Shimcha kadosh, U'kedoshim b'kol yom u'halucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated, and we continue on the bottom of page 175. Say Adonai Eloheinu, Yamecha Yisrael, U'tefilatam Yava, Titkabel, U'tehi Ratzon, Tamid Avodat Yisrael. Amen. On 175, you are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'adcha levadka v'yira na'avod.
On page 178, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Ki atav melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atav melech Adon lechol hashalom. Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarich et Amcha Yisrael. B'chol עת ובכל שעה ישלומך. Baruch atah Adonai, avarech et amo Yisrael. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. We pause for a moment of silent prayer.
please rise.
Ki mitzion tetze Torah, ki mitzion tetze Torah, udvar Adonai mirushalayim.
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael, b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Please be seated.
This week's Torah portion, we find ourselves in Numbers, more specifically in Bamidbar. I'm sorry. Does that work better? We find ourselves in Bamidbar, the fourth book. Bamidbar means the wilderness. And believe me, the Israelites are in the wilderness. The meaning of the chapter name is to raise up or to mount. And it really refers to the finishing of the Mishkan by adding the candelabras, which have to be mounted. This is the most unreasonable name for this particular parsha, because there is no raising up in the rest of it. In fact, this is the quintessential parsha for the quintessential Jewish trait, then and now. And I'm willing to bet that most of you know the next word I'm going to say is kvetching, because that's what happens in this particular parsha. And it starts, first one is a simple one. God commands that Pesach is to be observed in the first month on the 14th day. Now, since they didn't have insurance calendars in those days, the 14th day is the middle of the month, which is the full moon. So it's real easy to figure out when you practice. Unfortunately, there were some people who were unable to practice Pesach on that day. It's not that they didn't want to, they just could not for various reasons. So they went to Moses and they begged and they kvetched. And they said, we want to be able to celebrate Pesach, but we can't do it this month. What do we do? Moses goes to the Lord. The Lord makes a very simple statement. No problem. Just do it a month from now. Kvetching in this case was a good thing. It got them the ability to practice Pesach in their own way, their own time. The second one is not so nice. And it's an interesting one because it begins with, and the Israelites were complaining bitterly. Torah doesn't teach us what they were complaining about. It just says they were complaining. And to give God kind of a human characteristic at this point, they were starting to get on his last nerve. God was not pleased at all. So God caused a fire to spring out in a certain section of the camp. And this fire wasn't pleasant, and people died. And again they came to Moses and said, please beg of God to take the fire away. Moses did. God listened, and the fire abated. The next one was even worse. The next one was a group of people said, we're tired of the manna that you've given us. We don't like the manna. We want more variety. We want meat. And they kept yelling it. Moses finally went to the Eternal and said, what am I to do? They want meat. Now this truly was the last nerve. And Adonai said, this part is actually in Torah. I'll give them meat, not for a day, not for a week, but for a month, until it comes out of their nostrils. At that point, Moses did his own kvetch. And he says to Adonai, I'm dealing with these people all the time with their complaining and their whining and their moaning. They're not my people. They're your people. You gave them for me to take care of. You have to help me out of this. And if you don't, you might as well kill me now. Moses had actually reached the end of his rope. Fortunately, Adonai can be pretty reasonable. And he said, I understand. Find me 70 good men, and I will take your spirit, and I will put it partially on them, and they can be the prophets in the camp, and they can take some of the burden away from you. And they did. And that was a great help. And I always found it interesting that the number 70 came up, because later when the rabbis formed their council, the Sanhedrin, there were 70. But we still haven't dealt with the meat. Moses again complained and kvetched again, and again he aggravated Adonai a little bit. And he said, you promised them meat. We don't have enough cattle, we don't have enough sheep, we don't have enough lambs, we don't have enough goats. How am I possibly going to feed them all of this meat? And Adonai, a bit piqued, said, do you doubt my power? All of this time, you're still questioning? Why do you question me? You will see how much meat you can have. And all of a sudden, winds came up from different directions, and probably every quail that existed in all of the world at that point ended up in the camp all at once. Huge, huge quantities. They had to tromp through them. And of course, everyone picked up the quails. Anybody could get it, but the gluttons picked up the most. And just as they were having their meat that they loved so much, a plague swept through the camp. And those who complained the most died. Vetching sometimes cannot be so good. So we've done that, and you think, okay, it's enough. No more of this vetching. But now the cruelest cut of all. Miriam and Aaron came to Moses and said, and I will now paraphrase the great 20th century philosopher Thomas Smothers, God always liked you best. Now I'm going to leave the rest of the story to Alan and Rich, because they're going to read Torah, and that's the section they're going to read, so you get to hear the end of that. So this whole chapter is full of fetching. And as I thought about it, I realized that, you know what? If I were there, I probably would have fetched too. But that's not right. Why should I be kvetching, even today? And all of a sudden, I was drawn back to that first kvetch, which was, when can we celebrate Pesach? And I thought about Pesach. And all of a sudden, I thought about our lamb shake. which goes on the Seder plate. The same lamb shank that was roasted probably 10 years ago, and every Pesach we take it out, and Susan puts it on the Seder plate, and after the second Seder, goes back into the Ziploc and back into the freezer to wait for another year. Then I realized that I put something else into the freezer as well. And what I put in was a word out of the Haggadah. It's a word that we all sing joyously every Passover. It's a word that's actually a sentence. And that word is, of course, Dayenu. It would have been sufficient. Can you imagine what life would have been like for the Israelites had they used that and practiced Dayenu, like we sing it every year? They wouldn't have had to kvetch. They would have realized what they had. That's a lesson to me, to realize what I have and to stop the kvetching. And I'll give you a personal example of my long-term kvetch and where I am now with it. Some of you may know that I was the third to last president of Rodef Torah. Rodef Torah was very important to me and to Susan. I proposed to her there. We got married on the Bima. She was president of Sisterhood. I was president of the temple. We were all very heavily involved, and it was our spiritual home. Every week we were at services, not only on Shabbat night, but also on Shabbat morning for Minyan. My reaction when we realized that Rodef Torah was going to have to merge, I was devastated. I'll never find another spiritual home. It's over. How could I possibly go anywhere else? There's the kvetch. So all of a sudden, we merged with Temple Sheriamoth. Now let me tell you about Dayenu. If Sheriamoth had welcomed us with open arms, but not had Torah study for me on Shabbat morning, Dayenu. They had Torah study, but we didn't have Minyan anymore, Dayenu. If we had Minyan, and we didn't have the wonderful choir that we now have, the combined choir, Dayenu. If we had the choir, and we didn't have this joint men's club service that I could actually get up and speak at what is now my new spiritual home and will be, Dayenu. It changed my whole outlook. I've gone from a song that came out 50 years ago, sung by Janice, right before she died. First two lines are, "Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? My friends all have Porsches." And I'll leave the rest of it for an earworm. That's not the way I want to be any longer. That's the way I was most of my life. Dayenu has changed the way I look at life, and I hope that it will also help you take a look at your lives as well. Dayenu, Shabbat Shalom.
Normally, we would have the men's club come up and assemble on the bima to do the blessing before the Torah, but today, in the interest of social distancing, they're going to do it from their seats. Gentlemen, please rise. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Thank you. For those of you who'd like to follow along with the kvetching, it begins on page 1099 in Plout. ותדבר מרים ואהרון במשה על אודות האישה הכושית אשר לקח, כי אישה כושית לקח. ויאמרו הרק אך במשה דיבר אדוני, הלא גם בנו דיבר וישמע אדוני. והאיש משה אנו והאיש משה ענב מאוד מכל האדם אשר על פני האדמה. ויאמר אדוני פתאום אל משה ואל אהרון ואל מרים, צאו שלושתכם אל אוהל מועד, ויצאו שלושתם. וירד אדוני ועמוד ענן ויעמוד פתח האוהל, ויקרא אהרון ומרים ויצאו שניהם. ויאמר שימו נא דברי אם יהיה נביאיכם, אדוני במראה אליו אתוודה, בחולים אדבר בו. לא כן עבדי משה בכל ביתי נאמן הוא, פה אל פה אדבר בו, ומראה ולא וחידות. ותמונת אדוני יביט, ומדוע לא יראתם לדבר בעבדי במשה, ויחר אף אדוני בם וילך. והענן שר מעל האוהל, והנה מרים מצורעת כשלג. ויפן אהרון אל מרים, והנה מצורעת. ויאמר אהרון אל משה, בי אדוני אל נא, תשת עלינו חטאת אשר נועלנו, ואשר חטאנו. אל נא תהי כמת אשר בצאתו מרחם עמו, ויאכל חצי בשרו. ויצעק משה אל אהרון לאמור, אל נא רפנה לה.
Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman he had married. He married a Cushite woman. They said, has Adonai spoken only through Moses? Has Adonai not spoken through us as well? The Eternal heard it. Now Adonai, envoy Moses, was very humble, more than any other human being on earth. Suddenly the Eternal One called to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, come out, you three, to the tent of the meeting. So the three of you went out. The Eternal came down in a pillar of cloud, stopped at the entrance of the tent, and called out, Aaron and Miriam. The two of them came forward. And Adonai said, hear these my words. When the prophet of the Eternal One arose among you, I made myself known to them in a vision. I speak with them in a dream. Not so my servant Moses. He is trusted throughout my household. With him I speak mouth to mouth, punim el punim, plainly and not in riddles, and he beholds the likeness of the Eternal. How then did you not shrink from speaking against my servant Moses? Still incensed with them, the Eternal departed. As the cloud withdrew from the tent, there was Miriam stricken with snow-white scales. When Aaron turned towards Miriam, he saw that she was stricken with scales. And Aaron said to Moses,
O my Lord, account not to us the sin which was committed in our folly. Let her not be at a stillbirth which emerges from its mother's womb with half its flesh eaten away. So Moses cried out to the Eternal, saying, O God, pray heal her.
Blessing after. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nita b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
You may be seated. We take time while the Torah is in our midst to think of those who are ill and pray for their healing. Tonight we think especially of Daniel and Mindy Minerva, Stephen Rice, Jordan Silverman, Brian Roche, Ron Klug, Karen Schiffman Goldstein, Arlene Schwartz, Harriet Zamro, Kate Ratner, Rachel Wall, Ron Leibovitz, Elisa Foreman, Lynn Norat, Mort Cohen, Jane Lieberman, Jordan Horowitz, Jack Block, Grayson Chukovsky, Spencer Gray Rothstein, Brody Scher, Fira Schwartz, Samuel Finkelstein, Alexandra and Eugenia Litovskaya, Rachel Orenstein, Alan Jacobs, Debbie Pincus, Bert Stillman, Karen Martinez, John Allen, Susan Reich, Joyce Welkus, Harriet Marcus, and Litman Beyer Ben Sholom Vachaya. If there are names that you'd like to add to mention out loud so that you can add their names to our mutual prayer for healing, please do so now. We also think of all those afflicted with COVID-19 and those in the Ukraine who've been affected by the war. Our Misha Beirach for healing can be found on page 371. Zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. La 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. It's Yosea Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem.
Please be seated. Good evening. I'd like to welcome and wish everyone joining us tonight a warm Shabbat Shalom. I'm honored to be speaking with you this evening on behalf of the Men's Club at our annual Shabbat service. It's wonderful to be together and to see how our community still stands strong given the history of the last couple of years. Our staff and clergy continuously work together to maintain a safe environment for our members and to join in what many of us feel is our second home. With that, it's been wonderful to welcome our friends and fellow congregants from TRT. From families enrolling their children in the ELC or religious school to participating in temple events or joining the Sisterhood or Men's Club, it's been great to see our temples merge together as one. In the spirit of the integration, I'm excited to announce that TRT Heritage member Michael Klass will be our new first vice president of the Men's Club. We also added another member-at-large position to our board, which will be served by TRT Heritage member Neil Finkelstein, who joins Jason Petoskey, who I thank as our existing member-at-large. Several other TRT Heritage members have been involved in Men's Club events all throughout the year, and we look forward to being able to extend the reach of our engagement with the congregation by having these gentlemen on our board in officer positions. I'd like to thank Rich Coben and Ken Eben, our second and third vice presidents, for their continued efforts in supporting our various activities throughout the year. Ken helps organize our raffle and Rich our softball games and trips to baseball games. As our treasurer, we thank Scott Edison for keeping our books in order, cutting checks, and ensuring we can fund our various activities. As our secretary, keeping the happenings of all our meetings and events in order is a job handled by no one better than Ellen Rothman. And we thank you for ensuring we remember what we say we're going to do. Mike Goldring, although you aren't here tonight, we expect that you to return at our next meeting as our Sergeant at Arms to keep order and ensure our mission is accomplished. I would be remiss if I did not mention Jerry Bursey, our first vice president, who we lost earlier this year. His dedication, creativity, and commitment to the Men's Club and our temple will not soon be forgotten. He held many roles over the years in addition to first vice president, including president, treasurer, and someone who always went above and beyond as an integral part of our Men's Club family, contributing in so many ways. We thank you and honor you tonight for all your years of dedication to the Men's Club. Your friendship will be missed. We also want to honor friend and fellow Men's Club member Glenn Cohen, whose immense loss we also feel within our community. Glenn worked tirelessly for the congregation, keeping us virtually connected for the many, many months during the pandemic, and helped the temple in all sorts of various ways. Each year, Glenn took on important parts in our Men's Club service, and so tonight we deeply miss not having him here and going forward. His mark upon the Men's Club and temple will never be forgotten. In addition to donations in memory of our friends who have passed, this year, due to excess funds from fundraising last year, the Men's Club has announced that it will be making a donation of $5,000, which will go toward ongoing work in the temple to modernize and centralize our memorial tree wall. In addition to all the other ways in which we give back to the community, both financially and in our charitable work effort, I'm glad that the Men's Club is able to make a more meaningful financial contribution that will last well into our temple's future. As for me, I will be staying on as president of the Men's Club for one additional year. I'm really proud of the work we've done this year in continuing to streamline our activities into focus areas of charity, community, recreation, social, religious, and fundraising. We welcome more of our community to join us at our monthly meetings or attend our events and get involved. Some of the things we're working toward are more frequent and consistent sports and recreational activities like softball, educational seminars around various topics of interest within our community, as well as other fundraising events like golf outings and poker games. These things take effort to put on, and so we welcome folks who might have any interest in getting more involved to reach out to myself or anyone of our board to see how you can help or what ideas you may have. We can always use folks to help drive events as well as come to the table with ideas for activities or programs that our membership would be interested in. Our softball game from June 12th has been rescheduled, as I said earlier, for June 26th. A new sign-up form will go out shortly for that game versus Marlboro Jewish. I understand that there's an intense rivalry brewing between the rabbis, so that's exciting to see. We also expect to have a summer social meeting get-together, date yet to be announced, but please check our webpage on the Temple website or find us on Facebook for the latest updates on things going on. Before I conclude, I'd like to reveal the winner of a drawing that was done earlier, calling the name of, actually, you know what? I'm sorry, I think I'm gonna hold off on announcing the name of the winner, because there might be someone who wants to keep this information confidential, but a winner was drawn earlier, and an email will be going out to those folks who will have their dues paid as part of our annual raffle each year. So congratulations. I'd like to conclude by thanking I would have thanked our choir. Thank you, choir. We have some members of the choir here tonight, so I'll thank them. Some of those members are members of the men's club, and so we were hoping for a double whammy tonight. We couldn't really have the services that we do without thanking our clergy. Rabbi Pankin and Cantor Wally, your leadership and dedication to our community is truly appreciated. We look forward to this special Friday night each year where we can help give back and lead this service with your guidance. Shabbat Shalom, and I look forward to seeing you over the summer months.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, vigor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser aretz, umoshav yikaro v'shamayim ima'al, ushkinatu zo, begov hei meromim, hu Eloheinu enod, emet malkeinu efezulato, kakatu b'torato, v'yadata hayom v'hashevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, b'shamayim ima'al, ve'al haaretz mitachat enod, v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh be seated. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We lovingly remember the over 1,037,000 Americans who have succumbed to COVID-19, over 6,337,000 in the world. We think of the family of Jerry Rosemarin, father of Scott Rosemarin, father-in-law to Sandy Rosemarin, and grandfather of Brianna and Seth, the families in the 30-day mourning period of Shiva. And we think of those who are in the 30-day mourning period of Shloshim, Lee Sperling, David A. Dorfman, and Anna Marie Rosenau. Tonight we recall the art site, the anniversary of their death, of the following members: Dorothea Front, Gertrude Amsterdam, Abraham Benjamin, Saul Bernstein, David Bobker, Celia Chansey, Annette Davis, Matthew Depew, Abraham Dorff, Scott L. Dorfman, Robert Drieblatt, Eric Eben, Esther Einstein, Irving Freed, Tilly Gelber, Ann Geller, Lorraine Gilman, Fanny Goldberg, Jacob Goldstein, Martin Greenblatt, Martha Hames, Florence Hoffman Tannenbaum, Hortense Kaplinsky, Lawrence Karp, Bert Kibrick, Rhoda Myers, Joan Nathanson, Max Rosenberg, Michael Rawson, Irene Roth, Barbara Furstein Cyril, Barbara Miller Sachs, Benjamin Schaefer, Jean Schmid, Marie Schneider, Daniel Schneier, Ed Schwartz, Helen C. Senick, Joshua Shane, Alexander Shapiro, Leon Shapiro, Ruth Siegler, Isaac Steinberg, Benjamin Sugarman, Louis Teitelbaum, Esther Tischberg, Charlotte Trencher, Adele Trott, David Weintraub, Margaret Whitehouse, Theda Wunder, Toby Yaskowitz. And each week we call to mind 6 unique individuals who perished in the Shoah, the Holocaust: Melech Greenbaum, Yuda Nisser, Denny Schein, Esther Schifrin, Samuel Machlin, Martha Schwab. Grateful for their memories, we rise as one loving community to recite the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv imru amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalamei alamaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal Shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to those who mourn and comfort to those who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen. Please be seated. We thank those who made contributions to our temple this week in memory of Eugene Paris, Glenn S. Cohen, Richard Cargman, Judith Roberts. In commemoration of the yahrzeit of Rhoda Myers, David Weintraub, Gertrude Amsterdam, Irving Freed, Isaac Steinberg, Tilly Gelber, Adele Trott, Eric Eben, Ed Schwartz, Jacob Goldstein, Joyce Rudick, Natalie Mossberg, Sarah Lazar, Ann Geller, Florence Owitz, Hortense Kaplinsky, in appreciation of Cantor Wally. And we have Mazel Tov to Ellen and John Middleton on the birth of their grandson Dylan Alexander Middleton. Parents Samantha and Eli Middleton are enjoying losing sleep. And also big brother Austin. Maybe a reason that they're losing sleep. I don't know. It was out of context. If there are other people who have good news to share, there is a microphone that's going to go around. Who shall carry the microphone? Rabbi Pankin, would you carry the microphone around and ask those who are, we will ask those who are here to share if you have any good news.
Don't make me come put this in your face, because I will.
My oldest granddaughter graduated Quinnipiac College 2 weeks ago on a Saturday. 8 days later on Monday, she started her master's, so she doesn't get a summer off. Occupational therapy. It's a 1.5 years extra for the master's.
Our son Dylan will be graduating MEMS next week, so we are very excited.
And Raquel made Dean's List again for her University of Rhode Island, her freshman year. She's 2 for 2.
Get my steps in.
Oops, I gotta keep the mask on. The rabbi knows this, but my son graduated last month from Rochester Institute of Technology with a degree in mechanical engineering, and he's now in Los Angeles looking for work. And then a second quick thing, my name is Debbie Thaler, and I wanted to thank the Men's Club because I know since from September to June, you all have ushered on the last Friday, last Shabbos of the month, and I'm very grateful. As Rich and I have had many discussions over the last 10 years that I've been doing this, he knows how hard it is to get people to volunteer to usher, so I just wanted to give a personal thank you to the Men's Club for doing that for 9 months.
And I actually just want to thank Debbie Thaler, who coordinates our ushers and sends out these messages in panic each week. We still need someone for Shabbat. So if you are able to usher and you'd be willing to usher on a Friday night, let me know, or let Cantor know, or let Debbie know, and we're happy to get you on the list. Anything else? Oh, good, we've got some others.
I'll just say I want to congratulate the Men's Club for a wonderful Friday service. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. My firstborn Marissa Rose class graduated American University just last month, and we're super proud of her.
And mazel tov to you on your new position in Men's Club.
I want to thank Alan, who, through all of this, Michigas, managed to pull this whole thing off, and he has worked so hard at it and done so well. So thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan, for reading Torah so beautifully, and thank you, Bob, for teaching us really inspirational Torah this evening. Anything else? I believe that's it.
And let's join in Motzi together. Ha-motzi lachem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our prayer is joyfully said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. To conclude, let's join together in Adon Olam. You can find the words on page 625 or on the screen in front of you. Adon Olam, Hashem Alach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, L'Eid Nasa, V'Chefzo Azai melech, Shemoni אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובר והוא יהיה ותפארה כל עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובר ותפארה והוא היה והוא עובר ותפארה והוא היה והוא עובר ותפארה והוא היה והוא עובר ותפארה. And if we would rise, please, we can imagine putting our arms around each other, or you could put your hands over your heart as we bless each other this way. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May you be blessed, may you be safe. Ya'er Adonai panav v'elecha v'chuneka. May you be luminous, may you be loved. Yisa Adonai panav v'elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you be joyous, may you be healthy, may you be whole. Shabbat shalom.